Josh Snow back with a look into the keeper world. So this will kind of be a multi-part look into the whole keepers and everything because I want to learn them from inside out and then be able to reteach them. So this first part will be just kind of the overview, the techniques, and then later I'll get into more so the nakeds, the leaks, all the fun stuff off of it. So the very beginning, I think we just need to define exactly what I'm talking about when I say naked and keeper. Okay, very broadly speaking, right? This is not rocket science, just so we're all on the same page. A naked or faking some sort of run, 99% of the time it will be outside zone, one way, and the cue is then break and contain back out the other way with some sort of flat, corner, low cross type elements going to it. So just a quick little look at what we're talking about naked, right? We're faking an outside run to the right, QB's booting out to the left, okay, and we have usually you have these three elements out here. So that's when I say naked, I'm referring to that. When I say a keeper, it's very similar. The only difference is we're going to protect the C gap to where the cue is going to for like a 2 count. And we'll get into all the techniques and how to handle different situations in a little bit. But that's the difference. So nakeds and keepers, very similar. Keepers, we're just going to protect that C gap with a tight end or a fullback for like a 2 count before he then leaks back out. So looking at the kind of techniques that kind of go into this thing, we're going to, all the little components into it, and then we'll put it all together in different videos. So quarterback technique-wise, you're faking the outside run, which will generally happen the C gap at 5 yards. And once you fake the run, okay, because you could do this off gaps as well. They're pretty successful. Once you fake the run, you're telling the cue to hit the C gap at 10 yards. Okay, so we're going to fake the run. You can put a cone there to really get this going. Hit the C gap at 10 yards, and you're coming back down to the line of scrimmage running out of bounds. All right, so fake the run, hit the C gap at 10 yards, coming back downhill. Right, so that's kind of the very basic way of teaching it. Now you can kind of do different ball handling mechanisms. From under center, you can definitely show the ball and then pull it in close. You're right, if you want to get super technical, you do the whole, like, don't show it, like, keep the near arm pinned and all that stuff. I think it's kind of like overdone, overcoached a lot of times. Right, let's not make this play harder than it has to be. All right, show the ball, pull it back in, hit the C gap at 10 yards, coming back downhill, out of bounds. Now the second coaching point, especially on nakeds, right, when we're not protecting that edge, but same thing can happen on keepers, is right when you fake it, eyes have to snap, right? Because we could have issues. I'll show you the issues that occur with this play. Once you fake, the eyes then have to snap to the flat because we had to see what kind of issues we have. So same thing, I'm faking the run, hitting the C gap at 10 yards, but I'm flipping my eyes right when I fake that run to see what's on the other side of me. See it here. Show ball, pull it back in. From pistol, you can't show the ball and pull it back in because you're so close to the running back already. So you just have to empty hand it, right, and tuck the ball on your chest. Tight elbow so the DN can't see it. Once again, these are all like, I think, kind of overdone coaching points. I don't know if the defensive ends are that smart on these plays. And a lot of times they're up the field anyway, so a lot of stuff doesn't matter. Right, if everything's important, then nothing is. Right, you can't emphasize 19 different techniques on every play and hope to be successful. Right, so there's just certain things that are more important. So this is easy. I can go play running back on a keeper naked. You're faking the outside run and just run out of bounds. Right, perfect world. You like fake the ball, outside hand, rub the nipple off, that whole thing. Once again, though, I can go play running back on this down. So I'm going to show you exactly one clip of this. Right, fake the run. If there's any sort of crazy pressure in your face, just block it while you're on your way out. And you can kind of set up the line of scrimmage. You're really trying to get that guy for information for later, for the throwbacks, the wheels type of stuff. So the fun stuff. So the actual kind of more schemey stuff before we get into the individual routes. When I watch these plays work and I watch them don't work, you see on good plays, they create this triangle. Right, this perfect little triangle here. Right, that's what we're looking for on good keepers and good nakeds. When you have bad spacing, these things kind of stack up. That's when we have some issues. Right, so if you're evaluating your keeper world, clear this up. Make sure we get that proper spacing, right? And once again, I'm gonna go into all the different routes, the different depths, that kind of thing in this video, and then the scheme that gets us into these perfect triangles in a later video. Right? This is a very general overview of what we're looking for. So let's go look at creating a triangle. You have another good one from the Dolphins here, right? Different motion, different formation, different everything. Okay, but once again, that's the spacing we want. We want something at 5 yards, basically. We want a pylon route, and then we want the low cross coming in behind everything at 12 yards on the hash. All right, so that's really nice right there. So you get your immediate high-low, and then you have a low crosser coming behind it as your second look. Where I see people fail is either stacking these things or killing an element of that, right? So it's important to have the deep route, the flat route, and then the crosser, right? Those are the three elements I would never sacrifice on this play. People try to become, like, do too much with this and do too many formations and motions and kill elements and lose one of those three pieces. So whatever you do, right? So here we lose what? We lose a deep piece, right? No deep piece, you get no sort of stretch. Right, so whatever you do, we have to have those three elements. And then with a fourth person, right, because your running back will be in the fake, with your fourth person, here the fullback, or could it be like a Z receiver, right, you can do an extra thing because they're not going to matter, right? But I have to have these three things, those three things to make this whole thing work. Right, so people try to, run a play and not have a flat, run a play and not have a low cross, run a play and not have the pylon route, right? And this is kind of what happens. The efficiency goes way down. So please keep those three things on, right, as you start game playing and formation and motioning these things out. All right, so some people teach us with a corner route. So looking at the first thing, front side. So I think we're going to jet here. Yep, we're going to jet here. So some people just run this thing as a corner, run out of bounds at 25 yards. I don't like that as much because you don't get that guy's not getting the ball. I think of the 123 I have clipped, I think the pylon or corner gets thrown 4 times. So what I want from that guy is I don't want him 25 yards out of bounds. I want him running at the damn pylon. So at 12 to 15 yards, sticking his foot in the ground and taking that thing all the way, taking that thing much higher all the way to the pylon, right? Because he's a pure clear out route. He's not getting the ball in this play. So I think this is a really nice example. Right, we have a U-me call, we get all that kind of stuff at a different time. Right, the tight end ends up running the pylon, but I just love how high he is. Right, he has no intention of getting this football. He has no intention of throwing the defender past and coming under. He understands what's going on here. Another example of not getting your guys out. Right, so pylon route. Replace the corner. The comeback is equally as inept, right, when you watch the plays. Like, he's not getting it, just have him clear it out. This is a nice example of a super high pylon that actually does get the ball. Now they end up going out of bounds. Right, but if he was running a 25-yard corner, he's now jammed up, right? We don't get the proper spacing. So have him take that thing super high. If the QB wants to throw it and flatten it, he can. Right, but his job is clear out. See, the QB even takes him a little bit higher because you don't have proper spacing here. You want something out of bounds at 5 yards. The low cross will be at 15, and that pylon will be much deeper. This is what I don't want from the pylon. This is more like a corner and him throwing the cornerback past him to come flat underneath. Right? We don't want this. This is poor spacing. Now it doesn't matter because the ball's out to the slider fast. Okay, but this would be a negative in my book. Keep going. Keep that thing high. The corner's with you. You ain't getting the ball, dude. Just keep clearing it out. It's a really nice slider. We'll get into these. Yep. So next up, another piece we're going to talk about is the slider route. So the route coming across. So shoot route for me. A shoot route is a flat route on the same side, running out of bounds at 5 yards. You just pick a spot 5 yards out of bounds, run a straight line, and high or college, once you pass the numbers, you can show eyes. Same thing here. We're just coming up from across the ball. Right, so we're going to come across the ball here. We're faking split zone. We have to avoid whatever the piece is over there, defensive end, outside linebacker, nickel. Avoid that piece. And we're going to try to build to a depth running out of bounds at 5 yards. Right, so it's the same thing from a shoot route, same side. We're just coming across, and we just have to avoid whatever this defensive end is doing over here. Really nice example of what that looks like. Fast forward, we're checking. right? There's nothing to avoid. Beautiful, so he's coming flat across. I really liked how he builds back up depth to 15 yards. We see again that beautiful triangle we're creating. We see that beautiful spacing, right, with the pylon route. Really nice rep there. Once again, not talking about the scheme and QB reads, and we'll do that in another video. Just the components of what makes all these keepers, nakeds work. Right, so there's some really good ones from Tyreek Hill coming from on the ball, running a slider. But I had to put old Ben Skowronek on here to represent the Great White Hopes at receiver. So this is avoiding the D end, right? There's going to be trash over there, trying to avoid him, dip him, show split zone. Right, fastest release. If that guy was super up the field, he'd come back underneath him. Right, because he gets rerouted so far, he doesn't get a chance to build his depth back up to 5 yards. Okay, but I just want to show you that this is possible from the ball if you have a speed receiver. Ben Skowronek is not a guy I would want to do this with. There's some better clips of Waddle has a couple, Tyreek Hill, that type of thing. Right, but it is possible. You can have a one-on-one with the corner and man before you come all the way back across. Late down flat. So this is the most like ambiguous how to teach it. Do you teach stuff steps, stuff like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. So I like teaching it. Sorry, this is one clip. So late down flat. Okay, so what we're doing, get to the end zero real quick. So I remove the hot element from this play. Like he's never thinking hot, which we'll get into a little bit on the next, or maybe the next play. I'm thinking here, if I'm 84, inline tight end, I'm cutting off the C gap. If the ball's on the hash, I'm cutting off the C gap until I get to the hash. And at that point, I'm pivoting back out, and I'm just finding the open space of the Q. Right, so people do like a 3-step cutoff, 5-step cutoff. I don't know what that cutoff is, right? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. I don't know what that is, but I knew where the damn hash is. The ball's on the hash, cut off the C gap into the hash, and then you're pivoting back out. That was tough to say. Just finding space, right? I have no clue where that space is going to be. Sometimes it's more vertical, right? There's one kill catches like 20 yards down the field. Usually, though, you just want him working as like a side mirror here and just be behind the Q because you're the last in the progression, right? So cut off C gap until the hash. If the ball's on the hash, pivot back out, finding that space. That's like the base way to teach it. Another look here, ball's on the hash. When there's an open C gap, we have an option here. So same thing, Kittle will do it here. We have an open C gap and we have a D gap defender. So 2 ways to handling it, and these systems do it 2 different ways. So these guys generally, the Shanahan or the Niners will still cut off the C gap. That's the easiest rule. This is not a huge part of what you do. I would say stay with it. It's bad on me as a game planner if there's nothing in the C gap and they're in bear or that D ends in a wide 9. Right, that's on me. I'll take it. So open C gap, cut off C gap until the hash, normal rule, pivot back out. Or you could come up and say, okay, there's no C gap threat, just go out block him for like a count, whatever that is, and then run your same flat off of that. So we'll see a couple different examples, 2 different teams doing it. Right, so obviously not what you want from a game planning perspective, right? Because you want to C gap guys, so you pack them in and then get outside of it. We see, it's a god-awful throw, but we can see you're just kind of finding that space. You're just kind of sifting into that space right there. It's a real feel route. This might be one. Okay, so here, we'll get into the issues of this later, but we see Cooper Kupp attempting to do it against a defensive end wearing single digits, which is never what you want. We can see how ugly this thing is, and then after it, he cuts off to the gap and just kind of finds that space. So it is possible, once again, I don't want my slot receiver running a down flat against a D end wearing single digits, but I'm not Sean McVay. So if you want to get super technical and really get into the weeds of this thing, Cooper Kupp up top, number 10, we're going to motion Robert Woods, who's gone. He's cutting off C gap, right? So he has a down flat or late down flat, whatever you want to call it. But if he has no flat presence immediately outside of him, he doesn't have a slider, he doesn't have an out route. If he knows there's nothing outside of him, then he has to also be the hot throw. Now, I'm not doing this because I'm not running this play without a slider or without an immediate flat threat. If you really wanted to get into this play, right? The cutoff to the hash is now off because I have something outside of me blitzing. I have to be the hot throw for the cue. All right, but that's really getting into the weeds of this thing, and I think, from a statistic standpoint, this play is much worse if you don't have an immediate flat slider to it. So I would not even talk about this because I'm not even installing this type of keeper. But just wanted to show you that is how it's done. Up top, Higbee, same thing. You want to pack that guy into the C gap if you can, right? If he's not going to move as much, then you just have to get out, right? Try to cut him off to the C gap, but understand the timing of what we're trying to accomplish here. It's a tough play going left. This is an example, get into the end zone real quick, of no C gap player, but having a D gap player. So this tight end, the same one, so it's the same formation, right? By way wing that we had earlier. He had a C gap defender, so he went down, he sold to the hash. There's something in here. He went down to the hash and pivoted back out. Now he has no open C gap, but there's something in a D gap. He will just, there we go, we're learning quick cuts on the fly. He'll just now go out block this guy. Out block him for a second, or whatever that count is, I don't know. And then run a flat route. So low cross, I thought this was much harder than it was with stems, because you see it drawn up in a playbook and there's all sorts of stems on it and all kinds of things. It's not that hard. Low cross, your job is to the opposite hash at 12 yards. Running straight freaking line, opposite hash at 12 yards. Now, NFL is different, so imagine the hash being like somewhere out here. And when these things are caught and they're ran well with good spacing, 12 yards on the hash. You see it in college all the time. Right, I don't care about the freaking stem. You're just running a point directly there. So he's exactly at 12 yards. You get the good spacing. Now they're condensed a little bit, so you don't get to get that beautiful triangle, but pretty good vertical spacing. Not quite the horizontal spacing we want, but it's pretty nice. Right, so we can see all these now components opening up. We have the pylon route. We have the Q touching the C gap at 10, coming back downhill. We have our slider. Now we have the low cross completing this picture for us. One more look. Same thing, we have all of our components. Beautiful. Right, so now the freaking comeback up top, right? Don't run the comeback. Please don't run the comeback. The ball will never go there. Clear him out, get him out of the way. Right, now you're just sitting there doing nothing. No comebacks. That's my PSA for the day. Right, but 12 yards opposite hash. If you're in high school, well, I'm in Texas, so it's different. But if you're in high school, you have to figure out what that is. I'm thinking college hash, 12 yards. NFL divide at 12 yards. Close enough. Issues. So there's a lot of issues on these plays, right? We'll get into the kind of the numbers, and I was kind of shocked about how bad these plays are. But the first thing is obviously tickets are easy to think about, right? Because unprotect the C gap, the D ends up the field, plays over. Here we have a keeper on, but you can't put two guys on the keeper, on the late down blocker, right? So we have a C gap and a D gap. We can't put two on him, right? Because he can't block two. And usually, right, that guy's that could be the Q player. So now we got big issues here. So you have to check out if they're showing pressure. They have a C gap and D gap defender. You got to get out, got to can it. That run to the other side might be okay. On the 6-1 stuff, you had to be in a different call here. All right, issue. Two on the late down blocker, issue. Another issue, putting a receiver on D end, right? Cooper Kupp's going to battle his ass off. There's still Cooper Kupp on, I think that's Preston Smith from a couple years ago. We saw the one earlier with that freakazoid ring, number 8. Same thing here. Like, I love those guys are going to battle. Okay, don't put your receiver on a D end if there's any chances up the field. Okay, you really want him squeezing down. He's in that sort of stance. I know we got some issues here. We were able to get outside of it, but we got issues. Okay, going left is an issue, especially for the flat component. We saw one earlier. This is on 4th and 1. I think Sean McVay even said after this game, I can't call this. Like, that's a brutal angle and a brutal throw. And this guy's one of the most talented NFL throwers we've ever seen. right? And that's just a brutal, tough play to get 4 yards, you know? So going left, be careful if you don't have a slider. Slider is a much easier throw than this kind of pop out. Let's see what this one is. Right, same thing. Good QB awareness here, right? We just get two on. We have C gap and D gap, so I'm gonna go through this one. This is obvious, right? We have massive issues. We have the double whammy of putting a receiver on a D end type body, and also having pressure, right? So this is a double issue. And this is what ends up happening, right? I know they think they have an answer, but throwing this ball for, you know, it could be tackled for 3 yards or whatever is not what you want. Looking at it real quick. Q's gonna fake it. 5 yards, snap his head around quick, knowing we could have issues here. But I think pre-snap, you just gotta get out of this thing, right? Can't put two on that guy. So, quick overview, super quick overview of the components of it. And in the next couple of videos, I wanna go into kind of the base schemes of it all, and then work through to like the leaks, the hiccups, that sort of thing.